Have you written a book and you're ready to jump into the publishing world, but you've heard all about making sure to do your research first? Well, today we're talking about what that research is and making sure that you take the right steps when doing that work. Hello and welcome to The Right Mama with Jennifer Aline. I am a freelance writer, a social media manager, a mother of twin girls, and my debut novel, That Age, is coming out hopefully before the end of 2020. Tonight, it is a wine night because life is crazy right now, and sometimes you just need wine. So whether you've heard it on my channel or other channels or in the whole writing and publishing industry, you've heard research needs to be done before you decide to publish your book or seek out publication. And some new writers or people who are new to this world may not know what that means. What kind of research do you have to do? How in depth? Today we're going to talk about what that research is that you should do before you set out into the publishing world. Before we get right into the nitty-gritty of the research you need to do, we're going to start off with some research prep stuff that you should try to check out. First, you should figure out what route of publication you want to take. And I will put down below a video that we talk about how to choose the best route of publication for you. But today we're going to just talk about traditional publishing and self-publishing. And again, I will link below exactly what those two are so we don't go over those details today. You want to make sure you know if you want to go the traditional route or the self-publishing route. Traditional includes the big 5 publishing houses. It includes small presses, college presses, things like that. Self-publishing is when you, the writer, the author, do it all. So those are my shortened descriptions. Something else that you should do before you get into the big research chunk of it is you should make sure you have a platform, an author platform, a writerly platform, a professional platform. You don't want to put your personal Facebook or personal Twitter out there for everybody to see if there's things in there that you would rather agents and editors and readers not see. So you want to make sure you at least have the start of a professional Instagram or an authorly Facebook group that the focus is your stories and your published work. You use platforms, and I won't talk a ton about platforms right now. Twitter is huge. Twitter is pretty darn big when it comes to specifically the traditional publishing industry. And again, I won't get into the details, but you will definitely want to get on Twitter. No matter what route of publication you're going, get yourself a Twitter, start following other writers, some readers, some hashtags, things like that, and just kind of get comfortable with the platform. And also, you'll want to have a website. Yes, if you get picked up by one of the big editors or even a small press, you will have a team there to help you, but you, the author, are the one who really makes that website unless you outsource and have someone help you. Kind of getting that started on your own looks really good, especially if an agent or an editor or even a freelance editor, if you're going the self-publishing route, want to check you out and just make sure you're not someone trying to scam them or take them for granted or something crazy. You want to make sure you have a professional look. So let's get into the real research and what the heck I mean. We're going to start off with some research tips in the traditional publishing world. Quickly, again, traditional publishing is, I live by a train. Traditional publishing is when you have a team of an agent, editors from a publishing house behind you, working with you to get that book out. They split the profits of the book with your team, so you may not make as much in the end. However, you have a very supportive team behind you. First point I want to focus on when it comes to traditional publishing is making sure you know where the heck to find these agents. There are lots of websites out there and resources where you can find some agents. QueryTracker.com, AgentQuery.com, Writer's Digest is always throwing literary agents out there, new ones because they're hungry and want some new manuscripts to work with. Presses, there's Medium. Writer's Digest also puts a lot of names out there. Mentioned before, Twitter. Agents and editors are big in the Twitter world when it comes to traditional publishing. There is the hashtag Manuscript Wishlist, which is MSWL, and a lot of agents and editors will write what they want in their submission box, what kind of story they want, and then put that hashtag. So if you're somebody who is writing a story that could fit into their interest, put down on a piece of paper, a document, a notebook, a spreadsheet somewhere, write the information down about that agent, go to their website, or go. Also on top of Manuscript Wishlist has PitMad, which is where my editor found me for my small press. And there's also Pitch Wars, which is really, really big on Twitter. So there are lots of chances for you to kind of build your knowledge base in the traditional publishing world when it comes to finding those professionals to help get you published. One that's really, really important is making sure that the agent or editor is taking your genre. You don't want to be a fiction writer and sending your manuscript to a nonfiction agent or editor. They will not open it up. They will toss it aside. So you want to make sure that what you are sending is what they want. Even if it's your dream agent or your dream editor, if they don't take fantasy and you're a fantasy writer, they are most likely not going to open it. If you write for middle grade and you send your book to literary adult, they're not going to look at middle grade. They're not. They're going to stick with what they're professional in, what they know. And even though they have links to other people who have that knowledge base for your genre or age category, they will still probably not open it up. So make sure when you go onto that agent or editor's website or their portal or whatever they use, make sure they take your genre and age category. That's really, really important. 3, when it comes to doing your research in the traditional publishing world, is make sure you know the submission guidelines. That kind of comes right after finding that list of agents and editors. You've done your research when it comes to that. Now it's time to look further into what they want. I kind of mentioned this earlier, is if you're going to look at a small press and the editor at the small press is taking young adult, look further down their list and they're going to have submission guidelines, probably on their website. And you want to make sure you follow those to every detail. Read every word, don't skip over anything. You want to make sure that if they are asking for a query, synopsis, and the first 3 chapters of your book in the body of the email, you're doing that. If you send the query, synopsis, and you send that in the body, but then you attach the first 3 chapters as an attachment, they may not open it up. It might automatically go to spam, actually. Some people's systems, that's what happens. So you need to follow those details in the submission guidelines to a T. That's super. This story before when it comes to submission guidelines. And one thing you also don't want to do is put a whole bunch of emails and CC in a whole bunch more emails and then click send. Just, the query, synopsis in, let's say, 1 chapter, and just send to a bunch of agents. Don't want to do that. You will not hear back. I did that. I will admit it. I did that with one of my first novels I was querying. I was just lazy. And I just thought, it doesn't matter. It was right after snail mail was kind of pushed to the side and emails were new when it came to sending queries and looking for representation. And I did that. I will never. 4th bit of information you want to make sure you research before you start jumping into the querying trenches and searching out agents and editors is figure out their response time. A lot of agents and editors have different response times. Some people will give you 4 to 6 weeks and they give you a response in your email. It says that. Sometimes you won't have any response after you send it. You have to look on their website for submission details and it tells you there. Sometimes they say, if we don't get back to you, that means we're not interested. And that's that. Popular one is an R&R, or a rewrite and resubmit. And if they're interested, if an agent or editor is interested, they might send you an R&R. They might say, hey, and even if they send you any kind of genuine hey, that's a good thing. That means they liked your story, they like your writing, and they just want you to make some changes. So you might get an R&R, and they might want you to make some changes to your manuscript. And if you do those, send it back in. They'll remember you because they sent you the R&R. So there are some different ways that agents and editors respond, and it's important that you don't just a week later, hi, I sent out my query letter and I'm wondering what you think. Don't do that. Stick to those guidelines that they set for you. If a professional does ask for your full manuscript or a partial, that's when you might, months down the line after you send it, want to check in because they did really show interest. But if you just sent out the initial query, don't do a follow-up email. Just wait it out. We are going to talk a little bit about self-publishing and what research you should do. I could probably tell you what research, I didn't do when it came to mine. Again, I talked in past videos. I self-published a book in 2012 and have since taken it off the shelves. I've said before, you could probably find it if you really dug deep, but there were so many things I didn't do. I honestly didn't do really any of this research. I just put it out there. Wrong, wrong, wrong. You don't want to do that. So this is the research I could say I should have done, which is true. But here's some research that you should probably do if you decide to go the self-publishing route. You will need freelance editors. Traditional publishing has a team of editors that are there to, support your story in an editorial way. Content editing, proofreading, copy editing, all those good things. When you're self-publishing, you need to find that yourself. So you want to do that research. You want to look on EFA, the EFA site, which is the Editorial Freelance Association. And they have a lot of really good editors on there. But you want to make sure once you find a few that you like, you reach out to them. You see what their credentials are. Look at their websites. Try to get a free sample. That's important because if they ask for money right away just for a sample, then you know that they're not legit. You want to make sure that they'll give you kind of a free sample, a page, edit a page. And if they don't ask for money and you like what they did, then that might be your editor. Upwork, there's Fiverr, Fiverr. But when it comes to editors, there's a whole bunch on authortube, people who edit, and Twitter. You can always find them on Twitter, but just do your research when it comes to any freelance editor or freelance anything. Make sure that they have their educational background, they've had the experience, they have some, people who have talked about them, and if they're new, really talk to them. Really see what their prices are if they're new. Just do your research. Do it. Second one is cover art and formatting. You're going to have to do your research when it comes to cover art and formatting. And again, you can find this with freelancers. You can find this with Fiverr. I don't know. 99 Designs. There's a whole bunch of other really great cover art companies and businesses that'll help you out when it comes to cover art and formatting. You got to do the research when it comes to this. I'm not as knowledgeable because obviously I didn't do these things. I just went on at the time to Amazon and just clicked away, and no, that's not how it works. You want to make sure that you have a professional, clean story, a book that looks professional. You don't want to just click and send the book off. So find some cover artists and find someone who knows how to format books in all forms. Hardcover, paperback. It's going to be different on ebooks. So you really want to find someone who knows what they're doing. Look on their websites. Ask other self-published authors. You can do that on Twitter. You can do that in Facebook groups. There are a lot of people out there who have done this before. So reach out, and I'm sure those authors and writers would help you. The third one we're going to talk about when it comes to researching the publishing world of self-publishing is figure out distribution. How do you want to distribute your book? There are lots of different ways to get your book out there. Now, when it comes to managing your book and actually publishing the book, there's a ton. On KDP, there's Barnes & Noble, there's Apple Books, there's Kobo. There's a lot now. And when I self-published my book in 2012, there were not this many options, and I also just saw a couple and went with it. Do your research, really look into all the options. Do you want to just stick in Amazon, or do you want to go wide and get your book out there on different platforms? There are different ways to get your book out there. And that's just managing publishing. And when I talk about distribution, meaning getting the book printed and out there, there are different companies you might want to look into. Ingram Spark, Book Baby, Pub Drive. If you can't tell, I am not as knowledgeable about this, but I do know that there are tubers out there who are self-published and they've done this, they've done it all. So make sure you know how you want to manage and publish your book and how you want to distribute it. Do your research. There's so much more that goes into publishing your book. Yes, you can write a great story, but if you want to get it out there, you want to do it the correct way. Look into those agents, look into the editors, look into the websites of all the freelance professionals that you want to hire if you're self-publishing. You have to put out the money, so make sure that someone you're hiring is good and legit. Do your research. Don't just settle. If you want to get your story out there and be looked at as a professional writer and a professional author, do it the right way. So thank you so much for listening tonight. If you like this kind of stuff, subscribe below, hit the thumbs up button. I post every Friday, and comment below. Stay creative and drink your coffee, but during times like this, sometimes it's wine.